Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Testing Mini Bytes. I'm your friend Amudan Saktivel, and in this video, I'm going to cover a little bit on how do I do manual testing, right? So you guys see me how I code. I know I have also conducted a lot of live coding sessions, but I wanted to show everyone that how I test, right? There may be chances that I can do something better than you, or I'm also open for feedback. How can I improve myself in terms of not testing the application? So my entire agenda here is not to do any structured testing. I'm going to assume some requirements. I'm going to take a website and test it randomly, right? So, and also along the way I will tell you how to dive deep into a particular testing area, right? How programming knowledge can help you to do better testing. I have actually realized myself that I become a better tester after knowing programming. One, I started to understand how backend works, how whole system works, how front end works, how these communication happens via API. So these have enabled me to become a better tester, and I'm gonna try to leverage that and bring it in the testing process, shortly. But yeah, I'm also cover how to ask right questions and what level we can go and all that, right? So without wasting a lot of time, maybe I will. So this is a random website that I'm trying to test today. So this is swiggy.com. And we are not going to take any complex scenarios, maybe a very simple sign up page, right? So even if you go to any interviews, they might ask you, give a sign up page or login page and then ask you to test it, right? So how can you impress them, right? How will you actually test it, right? So let's assume, right? So this is a sign up page and I want to test this, right? So it asks for phone number, name, and email, and also some referral code. Yeah, looks okay. I think they wanted to have it in a kind of sliding window. I normally don't recommend having this. The reason being, in let's say if people are accessing this via mobiles, we also have to test how this layout happens, right? For example, I use a bigger screen now. So see, there is a lot of empty spaces here on the right hand side, right? Which obviously they haven't, they have to take care while doing the front end. So when we design applications like this, I think it is important for um, developers to take care of all this alignment. If you notice, there's a lot of empty space which I don't really like to have in my screen, right? So that's the first thing. The second impression is they want to ask for a phone number. I expect some kind of what a mark says how many digits should I type in, +91 country code. Yes, I know Swiggy operates only in India, so it's okay. Most people want to enter +91, but sometimes they might get confused. Should I do +91? So it's not accepting plus. So obviously I cannot enter special characters. That's good, but 991, I try to enter some numbers, but it doesn't allow me more than 10. So obviously people have to assume they don't want to do this, right? As an application developer, I wouldn't do this, right? I ask people, I give a static word column here that says +91, so people don't get confused. Not all the people who use the applications are really smart, right? Everyone uses the application and we cannot expect them to be smart, right? So obviously I would tell developer to have something like +91 here, or ignore the country code, some kind of stuff like that, right? But the good part is they only allow 10 digits here. That's the good part. um, how do they doing it? Like most people know that they are only allowing 10 digits. But when I ask people, like I have been recently taking a lot of interviews, when I ask people, how do you know that it always allows 10 characters, 10 digits? And then they don't know how to do that. So most of them, right? So if you go to the dome, right, the dome tells all about this, right? So if you notice, there is a type equal to tell, which also is responsible for not allowing me to enter any special characters or alphabets. I'm still trying to type alphabets here, but I cannot do it because this type attribute still actually is controlling all this. Okay, if in another place in the same application you want to use a phone number field, or you want to have a field that has to behave like a phone number, you can still use the same attribute there, right? So the developers can still leverage these attributes. So I don't have to test every time that it's accepting 10 characters or it doesn't accept digits. I don't have test cases for that. All I validate is the type attribute is still, and then, and then they have written proper unit test for that or not. So that's when the programming comes into picture. If there is a unit test, good. If it is not there, I will go and add an unit test for type equal to tell attribute. Then it will cover all these things there. So it is not a good idea to test the special characters entry, maximum digits entry, and all that in the website or in automation or UA automation. It's not at all a good practice. Try to move as left as possible. Best place is your unit test, right? Let's come to the name. And name here again, guys, mobile, the type equal to tell also controls the number of digits there, and if I enter less than that, it obviously throws errors. But the error is enter your phone number, which I don't like, because um, I already have entered some number here, but it doesn't look like a phone number. It can be even landline number, right? So obviously this isn't right. So I obviously expect people to give much meaningful message like enter your 10 digits mobile number, whatever, but more meaningful, or please complete the mobile number, whatever. But it should be more meaningful than this, right? And let's go to the name field, right? So again, it has type equal to text, which means it should accept all these things, right? So special characters and everything. And I don't see a maximum length here, right? So obviously, if you try to control this, there is no such attributes here that controls the uh, length. So obviously, it will go as long as possible. Amudul, what is the problem with this, right? This is the second question I ask. Okay, it allows max. I don't know what is the maximum length, but what is the problem with allowing people to have an infinite name, right? Um, and then people don't come up with an answer. Now, this is when you have to dive deep and understand where this gets stored. Okay, this gets stored in database. Okay, so there are two databases, relational and text based, like Apache Lucene or your Postgres NoSQL database like MongoDB and all that, right? So there are two databases. And in the conventional relational databases, they have something called as varchar, and it controls the size of it, right? And when this exceeds, and then it's going to throw you error when trying to store it in the DB, which means you will get the error when you try to do continue. And another problem with having a bigger name, allowing a bigger name, is, let's say if you after you sign in, right, they might give some nicknames on the top or somewhere in the logged in screens to indicate that you have logged in. And this how this text gets wrapped, right? Some people just replace only the first character or the first and the last name, first letters from the first name and last name. But yeah, it happens, right? So you also have to think about alignment, how this name will be displayed in different sizes, right? So that's when the complexity gets introduced. So obviously I expect developers to have a maximum cap on this. At least this is not going to be used anywhere. So this is going to make our life much easy, right? It's not that I'm allowing someone to have 200 digits characters length of name, and then I have problems with my database. I don't know how to control it. I don't know how this displays in the front end. I also need to see how it gets wrapped in different screen sizes. There is a lot of testing coming into picture. So if this is, if I was a developer, I will restrict it to 15 characters or 20 characters or have a limit for that, right? Good. And let's go to the email, right? So email is a fun thing, right? Again, guys, in most of the login pages, you'll have password fields. And then when you type it, it get masked or it displays in dot. What is the reason? The type attribute will be a password, right? If it is password, your password, it will get masked. You don't need to have a test case to do that, right? You can write a unit test and it will be handled at the backend, right? This is how you can move all the testing to the left, and you can sit back and relax and test only the important end-to-end features, right? This is not a place to test the fee levels in the UI. That's not a good approach. I used to do that when I was a beginner. There was no one to guide me, but I learned all this thing in a very hard way. Thought I will cover this here. Good. And also, if you notice, there is an email field. Let's try to do some numbers, some special characters. It's all good. At the rate, whatever, at the rate.com. Let's see, it's an invalid email address. I think they only guess with Yeah, so if I have just one at the rate, it just accept. So let's also inspect this field. So if you notice, there is autocomplete, that is off. That's also good. Um, I think the type equal to email is handling all this, how this email feed should behave. If you don't have at the rate, it might throw invalid email address, right? So this is what is handling all these things, right? Good. So now let's also go down. There is have a referral code link here, and you can also click this, and then you can type your referral code. This is a invalid code, but yeah, even if you enter it, I think it is getting accepted, right? So let's see. Let's give 10 numbers, 10 digits here. Again, the problem is, let's say if I do a continue. Okay, if I do a continue, again, it's sending a one-time password to some numbers, right? I can automate this, and I can make this to send OTPs to the customer multiple times. I don't know if they have written logic to restrict the number of OTPs being sent in a day or whatever, but having a captcha can really help here. Oh, so if you notice, I also found I went to that screen. I don't have an option to go back. So you type some numbers here, you have some name, it's @whatever.com, and if you go inside, so it says invalid name. Again, this is a problem. So it doesn't accept digits. But the problem is the error message is coming here. That's quite strange, right? Um, Again, this should be coming from the network, right? So your API is now responding this. Let's go to the API, and then let's see this. So again, even if you send an invalid name, it still returns 200. Okay, but yeah, let's see what else they have. They send all this information there. Okay, and then you get the response as status message as invalid name. It's all good. But what I am thinking is, again, they have tracking our device ID and all that. Okay, but yeah, what I'm thinking is, if it is better to have this error message somewhere very closer to the name, which means they can still highlight here. If you notice, if I enter some invalid phone number, it throws the error here. So right. So same way for this also, you can show the error near to the field itself, so that it's easy to identify this, right? So these are all how we can improve the usability of this website, right? So let's see other stuff, right? So let's forget about this. And the reason why we came here is because we clicked on continue, we went to the next screen, but I don't have option to go back, because if I type an invalid number or whatever, I want to come back, there is no such way. Like, you have to cancel this again and enter all this thing, which is a painful process. What I recommend is, to developers, have a back screen where I can go and change the number, or give a link here, entered invalid number, click here to change it, whatever. So that, we send an API call again to a different number. That's how you can make your life much easier. Like, for now, there is no way to going back, right? So I have to enter some OTPs, right? Again, I don't know why they are allowing so much of characters. And then let's verify OTP. Oops, something went wrong. What went wrong? The OTP is invalid, but they're giving a different error message, and the two at the bottom of the screen are not here, which is very strange. And also, it closes the side menu, and then it comes back here. So if I enter OTP incorrectly, I have to do the whole process again. This is quite ridiculous, right? Imagine this is a website, Swiggy live website. I'm doing a testing, and I find this website horribly wrong, right? There are a lot of things that people can do to make this website really well, really good. Okay, and then if you notice, by creating the account, I accept the terms and conditions on privacy policy. That's all good. But if you observe in the left hand side, so this, if I click on this, it will open it in the same tab, right? It's opening in the same tab, which is quite, something that's not right. So it has to open it in the new tab, right? So I have to do this, right? Which is quite strange. How you can find this? If I go to inspect here, if you notice, there is a terms and conditions. This is a href that it will navigate to. But if there is a attribute called target, and if there is a value of underscore blank, then it will automatically open this in a new tab. This is very simple to implement. It's not even hard. You have to just add another attribute and it will do the job for you. If why they are not doing it? Because the testers haven't raised this, or they raised this and product owners ignored it, whatever reason, but this is not good. So again, another problem with this name attribute is you can also type and invalid like Tamil language or Telugu language and Hindi letters, right? And see how it behaves. Like previously, when I worked for an e-commerce company, and then there was a customer who entered Chinese characters, and then our Oracle database have problems parsing that information back. When we stored it, it accepted it, but when we tried to retrieve it, it had some problems, and this user was not able to log in, right? And then it took a lot of efforts for us to find why it is not on. I cannot type Tamil letters here. I don't know. Maybe Tamil letters. Maybe I'll take few of these and then I'll try to enter here. So yeah, it's accepting. So I can also give some numbers here and then ABCD or whatever, and then give. So it's saying invalid name. So obviously it's not accepting, it seems, right? So yeah, they're doing the check. It's good to always refer that, right? So yeah, so this is how we can test this a particular website, right? Let's go further and understand. Hey, Amudan, looks very simple. What else you could think? Whenever I test a website, I'll also see other websites, right? Let's say Zomato is one of the competitor. One thing which I don't see good here is they could use OAuth mechanism to sign people in, right? I have my Google signed in my website, and then it is very easy for me to log in via OAuth or sign up via OAuth, then entering all these details myself, right? So it is also good to do that, right? And then I don't know why they want to ask for an email. If they are doing more of the communication with the email, it shouldn't allow some temporary emails like mailinator.com, whatever. So we are enter something good. So if you notice, it's also accepting those emails, right? So which is quite strange. And then I am sending OTP to some numbers that is not my number. So obviously I expect some kind of captcha to kick in instead of doing some restrictions of the backend, right? So captchas are the best place to avoid this kind of stuff, right? And then most importantly, let's try to replicate with the invalid OTP. Again, if you notice, this type equal to text and ID is OTP. Again, it can accept both numbers and the text. So I would expect the type as OTP and only accept six digits, right? So that you don't type something else. Why? Because not all the people who use the your desktop, they will also access it from mobile. How this will display in mobile, so all that stuff, like the mobile keyboard is different, like they might have numbers there, switching between the alphabets and numbers. So it's pretty hard to switch between both. So I prefer having OTPs in the numbers rather than combination of numbers and digits or just digits, right? So yeah, stuff like that, right? And so let's say I give this, I go to network tab and see what's happening, right? So there is a OTP verify call that happened, and then it also showed the error message. But let's see what we have here. So it said invalid or incorrect OTP here, but on the outside it showed oops, something went wrong, which doesn't indicate anything to the user, right? So which is quite strange, right? So also, if there is a problem, I don't know why people are still returning 200. I mean, it's their design choice, but still, for everything, if they return 200, people might not even understand when there is a problem, right? It's easier to send a different status code if there is an error, there is something wrong, invalid or incorrect OTP, define a different status codes, right? So this is how I test an application. Again, this is not complete. Okay, I may have missed scenarios, a couple of one or two. You can also try Zomato. Let's see, they go there, and then I do a sign up. Okay, if you notice, they are just asking for full name and email, and then they do ask for phone numbers. And why Swiggy was asking phone numbers? What do we do with the phone numbers? Why these guys are not using the phone numbers? Because phone numbers are much easier accessible than the email IDs. I don't know why Zomato is doing it, uh, but let's see also how these guys are handling the privacy policy and all that. Let's click this. It is also opening in the same page, which also doesn't seem right. Um, so yeah, again, if you notice, there is an option to continue with Google, which means I can sign up via Google using OAuth 2, which is actually good, right? So yeah, yeah, you can compare with multiple websites, how people are taking it. You can compare field level checks, but it's better always to go inside the elements DOM and understand what's happening in the DOM, right? So once you know what you can see here, what you can validate in the attributes, it can help you to write better test cases, right? And then understand when to test what. So field level, do it in the unit test, have attributes to control them in the front end. um, Again, most people doesn't know whether the error message is coming from the front end or back end. So if you are typing 5 to 6 digits, and then if you take outside, this is basically coming from front end. I asked this to so many people, and then they were saying like all the error message will come from back end. Back end, if that is coming from backend, you can see that in the network tab, right? So I'm not blaming, or I'm not trying to point out mistake in others. I'm also like this. A couple of years back, I was in a horrible state. I used to work hard to do my testing, but testing is not that hard like people imagine. Once you know what you need to test, you can test that easily. Okay, now also when I ask people, you can tell me why you are doing boundary value testing, like what kind of data you will try to enter and all that. They will say I will do 9 characters, 10 characters, and 11 characters. And then I ask, what is the impact of boundary value analysis? Why do we really do that? And then everyone says it's a testing technique and we follow. No, that's not how we should explain, right? If you are interviewing 10 people, almost all the 10 people will give the same answer. How well you can dive deep. If somebody is asking me this, I want to give them a very good example. Let's say I know coding, then if I run a for loop till a number n, there are chances that I can use less than or equal to instead of less than, right? Or instead of less than or equal to, I could have used less than, right? So then there are a lot of chances that the defects can happen because of coder's mistake, right? And then why people do equivalence partitioning? Because equivalence partitioning is kind of your statement coverages, right? So if you have an if conditions, if the number is less than 50, do this. If it is greater than 50, do that, right? It's an equivalence partitioning, right? So again, try to understand why we test certain things. Even for I may come up with another use case where I might ask you guys to come up with scenarios, and I'll also tell how I would test it. But I hope this session was really informative. If you would have tested this website, would you have found this all? If I have missed something, please do drop in the comments. I'm happy to hear and learn from you as well. Thank you guys. You all have a good day. Bye bye.